solve some addition problems using our touch points. Let's get started. Over here we have 4 plus 7 and then the equal sign. The first step, remember, is to circle that big number and then add touch points to the small number. So if it's a 4, how many touch points do I need to add? 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. The next step is point to the big number and say it. 7. And then we're going to count up from there. 8, 9, 10, 11. So 4 plus 7 equals 11. All right, the next problem. Go ahead and read it. 9 plus 5 equals. What do I do first? Okay, we'll circle the big number. What do I do to the smaller number? And how many touch points do I need? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Point to the big number and say it. 9. And then let's count up from there. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 9 plus 5 equals 14. How do I write 14? A 1 and then the 4. Okay, next we have 7. Actually, I want you to read the problem. All right, what number do I circle? Okay, because both of these numbers are the same, you can circle either the top or the bottom because not one is bigger than the other. So I'm just going to circle the top one and then I'll add touch points to the bottom one. Because it's a 7, we're going to do 4 chocolates and then we're going to do 3 vanillas. And it does make it look it's a little hard to see now with all the circles or the touch points on it. But let's go ahead and point to that number and say it. 7, and then we'll count up from there. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 7 plus 7 equals 14. And we just wrote a 14, so a 1 and then a 4. Let's make it a straight line. There we go. All right, go ahead and read that next problem. First step, what do I do? And how many touch points do I add to that smaller number? 2. All right, we're going to point to that big number and say it. So 8, and then 9, 10. And then how do I write the number 10? A 1, and then a 0. Okay, on over to here. 3 plus 9, and then the equal sign. So circle that big number, add your touch points to the small number, and then we're going to point to the big number and say it. 9, 10, 11, 12. How do I write the number 12? A 1, whoops, and then a 2. Okay, next we have 1 plus 9 and then the equal sign. So which number do I circle? The 9. And how many touch points do we add? 1. Point to the bigger number and say it. 9. And then we're going to add that touch point. 10. So 1 plus 9 equals 10. All right. Now over here, we're going to start adding to the number 10, and we haven't done that before. So 10 plus 5, and then we have the equal sign. So there's a couple different ways to do this. The first thing that we're going to do, or one way that we can do this, is we'll circle that big number just like we've done with the other problems. And then what do you think we would do next? add our touch points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now point to the big number and say it. 10, and then count up from there. 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. How do I write 15? A 1 and then a 5. It's a little messy, but hopefully you can still read that. Now the other way we can solve when we're adding to the number 5 is to stack it. So you would put the 10 on the top, and then the smaller number you would put on the bottom. So in this case, the smaller number is a 5. And when we line them up, we're gonna make sure that the 5 stays underneath that 0, because this is gonna be the ones column. And this over here is the tens column. So you only see one number in that tens column. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna add. So if we have a 0 and a 5, we can actually do this just like we do our other problems, except for you're not gonna add any touch points to a 0 because it's the number 0, so there would be no touch points to add, but you can still go ahead and circle that 5, point to it and say it. So 5 and then add 0. What is 5 plus 0? It's 5, so go ahead and write your 5 down below. And we wanna make sure that we're writing it underneath the column that has the 0 and the 5. So it's still gonna be in that ones column where the 0, the 5 are. So it's underneath that. We're not done yet though. We still have this 1 over here. Do you see any numbers to add it to? No. So you can even put a 0 over there if it helps you. And so 1 plus 0, what is 1 plus 0? 1. So we're gonna write that 1 down below. And we wanna make sure we line that up in the tens column. So we need to make sure it's under the 1 and then that 0. So now we have our answer. 10 plus 5 equals 15. Did we get the same answer that we did when we had it next to each other? Yeah, they are the same. So those are just a couple different ways that you can solve by adding the 10 to different numbers that are smaller than 10. I hope that you've learned something new today. If this was tricky, that's okay. We're gonna keep practicing and then it's gonna become easier the more we practice these numbers. All right, thank you for listening and watching the video. Goodbye.